week's quote comes from the one and only Oracle of Omaha himself, Mr. Warren Buffett. And he said this: never test the depth of the river with both your feet. If you don't know how deep it is, don't just dive right in.
Yeah, I've seen, actually, unfortunately, I've seen people get hurt by diving into water without knowing the depth of it and end up, being paralyzed for the rest of their lives. That happened to a classmate of mine in high school. So yes, it's very, very important to understand how deep the water you're jumping into is. And I think it is especially important in terms of financial planning and retirement planning, because his quote speaks directly to protecting your life savings as well as your future lifestyle. Retirement, folks, is not the time to gamble at all. And so, there are several things I want to point out. And the first of which is simply diversifying. In other words, do not put all of your eggs in one basket. And I know that cliche has been heard and kind of run through a zillion times, but let's talk about the wrong approach first off, right? And that might be somebody who's just retired and they take their entire 401k and they move it into a hot tech stock that they heard about from one of their neighbors. Okay. That would be the wrong approach, folks. While a better approach would be to diversify across stocks, annuities, cash, and then maybe only allocate a smaller percentage to those riskier assets if they still want to have some growth potential. That way, they are not standing in the deep end with both of their feet. Matt, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, especially, and I love how you bring up maybe just a hot stock tip or like one popular tech stock or something that maybe everybody's getting into and all of that at the moment. But then you look at over these past couple of weeks, what has happened to tech stocks. It really have been hit hard by the whole uncertainty surrounding the tariffs. And so, if you are all in on one big tech stock, well, maybe that tech stock is going to be the one that does a lot of business in China or something, and then they're going to really be hit. And then that whole nest egg, or at least a huge chunk of it, is going to be gone. And so you don't want to do that. You want to be, as you say, diversified across different asset classes so that you can, weather whatever storm comes your way.
100%, right? The second thing I want to talk about is when it comes to income planning in retirement, the need to kind of test first and then commit. Where, talking about a wrong approach, somebody hears that bonds are the way to provide retirement income. And they've heard this because maybe their dad did it or parents did it, or maybe their grandparents or great grandparents did it. And so they dump their entire portfolio into bonds for income in retirement without understanding any of the terms or any of the payout structures. While a much better approach would be to use a part of their savings allocated maybe to a fixed indexed annuity as part of their overall income plan. And then maybe, just maybe, they ladder multiple annuities over time so that they're providing themselves with multiple income streams across multiple years, or maybe even they combine those with other income streams like a pension, if you're fortunate enough to have one, or Social Security, if it's still there by the time you get there. So, Matt, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, we have said this before on the show, and I'm sure we will say it again many times, is that when it comes to retirement, having that, one big nest egg is great and is a wonderful goal to have. But then how do you take that and turn it into income? Well, you got to have a plan for that. You've got to make sure that you know how you're going to take whatever money you've saved up or invested or whatever over the years and turn that into income, because income is how you are going to, pay those bills. Income is how you're going to be able to go on those big vacations and do all of the things that you want to do. And, really make sure that that money lasts for the rest of your life, no matter how long that life may be.
Yes, absolutely. Planning is imperative. Okay. The number 3 thing, a lot of people just have this idea that they want to retire. And some of them retire too early without first testing their budget. Okay. So in other words, a wrong approach. Maybe you quit your job when you're 60 years old, but you have no clear retirement spending plan or no idea of healthcare costs. and thinking, you know what, I'll just wing it. I'll figure it out as I go, because I've always been able to do that in the past. Where a better approach might be to run retirement simulations, maybe work part-time first to kind of test that water, or even do a practice retirement by living on your expected post-retirement income for somewhere between 6 months to a year. That way you can identify any potential shortfalls while you still have an income source. And that gives you a way to test the water without committing and just jumping right in. Matt.
Yeah, that's the thing. You got to be able to have a good way to sort of test things. Dip your toes in, before you, as you were saying earlier, jump in and then maybe end up in a world of hurt. Because it's if you have a way to test things, then you're not what's coming. More of what to expect, and how deep the water is, and there you go. You can Again, it's all about what we talk about a lot on this show is proper prior planning. And part of that plan is testing things out and making sure that, the water's as deep as you think it is.
It is. And another thing that I think a lot of folks it's difficult for a lot of people to kind of wrap their brain around is switching from the accumulation phase into the income distribution and preservation phase. And so chasing yield, right? Those high returns that come with high risk. And a wrong approach would be in investing in just really high dividend stocks or maybe junk bonds because they have these really attractive yields without understanding the risk of loss of principal. And a much better approach would be sticking with a well-balanced income strategy, knowing and understanding that it is much better to earn a reliable 4% with safety than it is to chase those shaky double-digit returns and risk everything, Matt.
Yeah, I enjoy going to a casino every once in a while,
Sure.
But I don't chase jackpots. I try to get a little slow and steady wins along the way and just have fun. I know that I'm paying for my entertainment by, laying money down on a table or putting money in a slot machine, something like that, or at a video poker machine, something. But yeah, it's a little bit like what you're talking about here is you're sort of chasing those big jackpots. And along the way, you're just kind of, losing quite a bit. You're laying down a lot more money on the table than what you maybe had budgeted for.
Right.
And it's not good. Preserve what you have, especially when your time horizon is a lot shorter. And that it means, the closer you get to retirement or in retirement, you've got a lot shorter timeline to deal with. So any losses, you've got a lot less time to make those up.
Yeah, exactly, Matt. And just to kind of wrap things up on my summation of the Oracle's quote, I've got a little bit of wisdom for retirees. Preservation is greater than speculation. Okay. In retirement, you're not in the accumulation phase anymore. You are definitely in that distribution and protection phase. And his quote just serves as a reminder to, number one, be cautious. Number two, move much more deliberately. And number three, always leave yourself a way out.